Welcome to our Wellness Hub. My name is Monisi. I'm your host and mindset coach. I also interview experts in the field of health, wellness, healing, and mindset to offer additional support in the journeys of healing and improving people's lives. Today's special guest is Carla Caturia. She helps teens and high-achieving parents stay balanced in their lives. Carla, thank you so much for being here. Tell us a bit about yourself and what are you doing to help people from around the world? The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. What a great introduction. I'm so happy to be here. So thank you very much for having me. So I was a teacher, assistant principal, a college professor for 2 decades. And I just knew that there was more that families needed, more that teens needed. And I wanted to help them at a deeper level. So they would come to me, there would be the same issues over and over again: stress, anxiety, overwhelm. And they didn't know how to handle big emotions and build resiliency, self-confidence, and all those things. So on the outside, they looked awesome. They're playing sports, or they're in band, and they're getting good grades. But underneath it all, there was a lot of turmoil. So that's why I shifted into what I do today, supporting teens and families and tweens, really. I have some young adults, just helping people in families to really thrive, and I help them to remove resistance. So it is mindset shifts, it's identity shifts, it's building their confidence, their identity, and just so that they can be more connected with each other and with themselves. Yeah.
That's beautiful. And so you work separately with teens and parents, or together, or you do a mix? How does it work?
Yeah, so it's all individualized to what the family needs. So technically, most times I meet with the teen every week and then meet with parents, say maybe once a month. But I have families that I meet multiple times a week. I have other families that the young adult hires me. So it really just depends on what the family needs. There could be more than one child, so I might be with both of their kids. So yeah, so it centers around the child, yet includes the parents at a high level. Absolutely.
And what is the difference? Because now more and more, we've seen that there are therapists, traditional therapists, that are also working together with coaches. What is the main difference between a therapist and you, who are
Yeah,
a coach?
I'm glad you brought that up, because a lot of my kids have therapists as well, or have had them in the past. I've had people have both or shift from one to another. And I feel like therapy is awesome, and it helps you like with past issues or trauma. And coaches touch upon that as well. And coaching is more focused on now in the present and moving forward, and how you're going to shift to what's next for you. So coaching and therapy do overlap. I use some techniques from therapy. I'm sure I'm sure therapists use some coaching techniques. So they really go well together, but coaching is just more future focused, and therapy tends to be more past focused.
Past focused. Now, in general, most teens perform because sometimes they feel they have to, because the parents are pushing them, and they don't really do it because they want to, but because they have to, because they're being pushed. And so there is this void, right, after a while. Now, what do you do to help them?
Yeah, so a lot of times it's like you said, parents are putting a lot of pressure because of society, GPAs and colleges and all the things. And that's part of the reason I work with the whole family, because everyone needs to shift. It can't just be a teen in isolation shifting. So there's that piece of it. A lot of it, I see a lot of parents as well that are putting less pressure on their teens, but the kids feel pressure, that they're putting the pressure on themselves as well. So that in either instance, it's working around letting go of that identity. Like, you do not have to be stressed out because there's a test. You don't have to be anxious because college is coming up. You can approach it with calmness, with excitement. It doesn't have to be anxiety. It can be excitement. Instead of what could go wrong, or I'm going to fail, or I'm not going to get into that college, it's what if I have an amazing roommate? What if college is awesome? What if I figure out a great career for myself? So it's really shifting the mindset around it, as well as helping families to prevent of sliding back into that, keeping up with the Joneses, and we got to go to this college, or we got to get this GPA. And so it's funny, because a lot of the people I've been working with have either been like, their kids are in alternative education, they're online, they're homeschooled, they're more of we want to do this differently and we want your support doing that, versus I'm in the public school system and it's just a constant struggle. So
And
yeah.
can you walk us through I know that every client is different and every teen is different, but
Yeah.
walk us through a session in short.
Yeah,
What do you teach?
absolutely. Absolutely. So we always start with wins, 100%. What went well this week? Building momentum, building some rapport. I mean, it doesn't take long to build rapport for me with teens, but it's just like, where are you at? What went really well? And then shifting into, well, what would they like to work through? So oftentimes, because I support families through tech support as well, if they're really young, their parents might have messaged me about something that they want them to work on. If they're a little bit older, they message me, throughout the week, and they're like, this is what I want to talk about on such and such a day. So we'll work on whatever it is they come up with in that moment, or what they've shared with me prior. And then I go through, and it might be a framework I use. It might be specific questions I use. It might be an activity that on the iPad, because we're doing Zoom sessions. So depending on it, I'm just basically going into my toolbox and giving the client what they need in that moment. And then we always wrap up with some sort of action step. So some kids can take, like, I want to do X, Y, and Z by next week. And other kids, it's just a small little, like, mini shift. Doesn't have to be a major overhaul, and it doesn't even have to be called a goal. It can just be a small shift that you're going to do every day. And then I actually always summarize that for parents, send them the information with some questions. Then we have discussion outside of that, so parents are in the loop. And that's kind of what it looks like to work with me on a weekly basis. Yeah.
Oh, good points. And as far as anxiety, for example, if you do you have some modalities like breathing techniques or meditation? Do you teach? Are they open to this type of modalities, teens today, or not?
Well, you'd be surprised. A lot of them are doing them prior to even meeting up with me. So they're definitely open to the modalities. I always, of course, like, they might be doing box breathing, which is fantastic. And I might introduce some other different type. Yet, yes, they're definitely open. A lot of my athletes, they already visualize, or they know what visualization is, and it really, everybody has a different mode that works for them. So it could be journaling, it could be voice notes, it could be like, you fill in the blank. So it's really depends upon what's going to work for them. But yes, they're open to it. And it's not even necessarily, to me, important which modality they use. Obviously, with, like you're saying, if there's anxiety and your nervous system is heightened, you want to bring it down by breathing. Those things are specific. Yet when it comes down to, like, seeing yourself in the future, it could be speaking to yourself on a voice note, journaling, a lot of times movement. Like for me, I know if I go for a walk, I start having, ideas come to me. So yes, they're open, and some are embarrassed at first or think it's weird, or, but then I start getting messages. They send me their photos or the things they did this week, or their voice notes, or their journal entries. So yeah, you'd be surprised. They're sometimes more open to it than parents, actually.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
And you mentioned athletes. Do you work mostly with athletes, student athletes?
Yeah, so I work with a lot of student athletes, as well as like dancers and cheer and kids that are in bands. They put so many hours in and so much work in. So any kind of those big extra 100% performance. Yep. Mm-hmm. And that's what I basically do. How can you be at your peak performance? We're never going to be perfect. We're never going to always do 100% perfection in every game or every match or every performance. Yet how can I spend more minutes in my peak performance than I did last game or last event? So yeah, a lot of kids that do a lot of activities. Absolutely.
That's beautiful. And you work mainly online with them, or also in person?
Yeah, so mostly online, because as you said earlier, I have clients from all over the world. Yeah, I've been lucky enough to have a lot of in-person sessions with my clients. Some fly here, we meet up, we maybe do a half day, we maybe do longer than that. So that is definitely part of my repertoire for sure. And the local kids that I can see more often, it's fantastic. I can go to their matches, go to their games, give them feedback on what I saw. A lot of times, just even if I just actually, like, I just went to one of my kids' tennis matches on Saturday. I didn't say much when we were there. I just gave him a big hug, give him some boost of confidence. Yet for me to see exactly what he is talking about when I see him the next week. So now it helps me to coach him better, and it gives him, that person in the stands is here to support me. So yeah, a little bit of both.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. And so, Carla, do you have one practical tip for our audience who is either a parent or maybe a teenager, a high-performing parent who would like to have, their teen children practice before they're off on their own?
So, yeah, I mean, I have a lot of strategies. So practice before you're saying like,
on
could
their
you be
own, they go on
like,
their own. They're teenagers and they're going to go on their own. Like they're going to be 18, 19. They're going to go in the real world. Well, almost real world, because they're still probably studying in college, but they are not with their parents as they were before.
So one major thing I always see quite often with kids, that they're home with their parents, they don't realize like how much their parents are doing for them. So from a parent's point of view is really getting them to believe in themselves that they can do hard things. So yes, that's self-confidence, but it's more resiliency. So that's not a strategy, but that's just an idea that I'm sharing, because a lot of times kids go to college and they're like, oh, they stumble because they don't realize like how much support their parents were giving them. But with that being said, a strategy specific for really anybody, but specifically for kids, would be basically in any moment, they have the capability to focus on what they want to focus on. So you have control over your brain. So at this moment, you can focus on the fact that it sucks because it's raining out, or it's gorgeous because the flowers are getting watered. And so every moment you can focus on it. So as your child has adversity, say they're going off to college and they failed a test, or their roommate, did something that didn't go well for them, and whatever the disappointment might be, they have the ability to focus in any moment on whatever it is that they want to focus on. So it's not predetermined for them. That would be the first thing I would say. And then they have the ability to take action based upon that. So it's up to them to decide to sit in their victim mentality because everything's going wrong, or it's, I'm going to take action and I'm going to feel this emotion. It's not the greatest emotion right now, but I'm going to move through this. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to go for a run, and I'm going to reset myself, and I'm going to take X action right now. So, it's really the meaning that they give it.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%.
Shifting the focus and turning, it's all about mindset. And you were a champion, correct? You were an athlete.
I was an athlete, yes.
Okay, because you sound like an athlete. That's our next interview. We're going to have another.
Let's do
We're
it.
going to
Yes.
focus on the mindset of an athlete. That is just so important. So, Carla, time flew by. We really have to meet again soon. And thank you again for sharing your knowledge, your expertise. You are truly making the world a better place by helping all these teenagers and parents become better human beings. So thank you again. Don't stop what you're doing. And we will definitely see you again soon. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate that. It's been awesome. It's been great.
Until next time.